Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and as always, joined by my good friend, wonderful co-host, Zach and Finch. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. A bundle of nerves for random unpodcast related things that I've got coming up this week, which is just fine. But it's fine. Luckily what it's meant is because I've been so focused on this instead. I've not been concerned about Saints ruining my weekend for the umpteenth time. Where we had that little bit of hope we might actually get something or build upon the draw of last week, and of course we didn't. We lost.
It's been the story of the season, mate. It's give you just the right amount of hope to just trick you into believing, and then concede 2 goals, 1 in stoppage time, and yeah.
It's why we seem to switch on and play for the draw is beyond me. I understand that they want to build something, but when have we defended that well? We defend better when we're also actually trying to attack somehow, and I don't quite understand why. Someone would have to explain the ins and outs of it. But bringing off Fernandez for James Bree, it was just kind of like, oh, we're really going to drag this out. And then you said, they put up with 6 minutes.
Mate. That was Stewart-esque, is what that substitution was.
That's a nasty but maybe accurate way of describing it. But I guess we should talk about the lineups. So it was basically spot on, except my prediction of last week came true this week, in that Ross Stewart started. Without any... I don't know if there was any mention in the post-match or anything. Where did Paul go? Wasn't the bench?
Yeah, I haven't seen
the squad?
Anything about
full bill of health on Thursday night, a clean bill of health. I know that you... It's funny because you joke about how that means nothing, and clearly it does, because whenever we're asked, like, oh, yeah, there's no new injury concerns, and, like, not on the bench at all. So unless he picks something up in training on Friday, no idea.
The man is made of glass and incapable of running for more than 60 minutes at a time. So, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility. But yeah, it's strange to have not even been mentioned. I've not seen anything in it in the post-match or anything.
Yes, it's just really weird. Like, I don't know, Stewart did all right, but it didn't ever feel like there was a goal coming at all.
Do you know,
really,
I think Stewart did all right, does him a disservice. I think he played well. He held the ball up with more intent than I've seen Paul do, and he pinged the ball off a couple of times. He got through on goal twice. I think I don't know if it does Paul a discredit because of, like, he's just a bit, like, gangly. But Ross Stewart looks like he plays football with intent. It's hard to describe, but it's like he means to be doing what he's doing.
It's one of those things, and, like, I know there was a lot of criticism for Shane Long, because Shane Long did a lot of work off the ball. And I think it's, for me, until the strikers start actually scoring goals, if they are in that position and we have somebody that isn't a natural goal scorer, and it takes so long, so long, becomes a problem. And to be fair, in like perception, right? It's like a lot of people, we get a lot of feedback of, like, Archer's rubbish, Archer's bad. And it's like, but he went on, like, had this little bit of confidence and he was scoring and stuff. The problem is, if you play 6, 7, 8 games and then they don't score, it's a big deal. And I guess with Stewart, I think the problem is that he has only had essentially cameo appearances right up to this point. That was his first start at St Mary's. But, like, you're kind of hoping, I guess what I'm hoping is we just score more. And that's not on him. It's just that's his main job.
But I think that there was promise from his performance. And he ran and he lasted like 60 plus minutes.
Yeah, which is fair play to the guy after being out for so long as well.
He got in behind a couple of times and got, had chances, not like clear cut, decisive chances, but chances, and yeah, he did a pretty good job. But
I'd like it if he scores. That's why, again, like, this is where I think we're always fundamentally going to disagree a little bit, where like, yeah, we put in a really good performance. They're like, we didn't score, Greg. And you're like, nah, but it was all right. And I'm like, and I think that's, I expect too much. I think
we're just going to end up making the same point, though, where we played, like, all right for as you can expect the team to play, but you look at what they're bringing in on off the bench
There it
compared
is.
to what we're bringing on off the bench.
There it is. Like I text you. I put it out on Twitter as well. Like Smith Rowe and Traore on the bench. And who do we have? James Bree to come off for incredible
For our
substitution,
best
bringing off
player.
Matty Fernandez. Dibbling, who is like, yeah, it's nice to have him off the bench, but he's not been the great towards the end of the season. I don't know whether there's a lot.
He didn't seem. It might, okay, it's hard to gauge.
Yeah,
I've only
that's
really
what I mean.
watched the game in real time, but also he didn't seem to put in as much effort as normal.
I think there's a
whereas
lot
Cameron
going on.
Archer, when he came on, was running himself wild, and he was the only one sort of trying to push that back line. There was one moment sort of towards the end where they literally had him running in circles. It was ridiculous because there was no one supporting him, and to his credit, he didn't give up. He just kept chasing the ball down and putting that pressure on. But yeah, Dibbling came on and just didn't. I don't know if he didn't seem interested or what.
I think it's got to be difficult, right? Like you've played under at this point 3 different managers. You were brought through into the first team by a manager that you had a strong bond with. You're being told to play different ways. You're being played in completely different positions all the time. I know that's entirely the case, but like it's got
stuck on your head.
Yeah, and then it's great that they're making jokes out of it behind the scenes. Like I've seen the Ramsdale story about him being like every time he misses a shot, it's like 90 million now, 80 million now. And all that kind of stuff is lovely, but like, yeah, I feel like it's going to get to you because again, you'll be like 17, 18. He turned 18 this year. I can't fathom. Like I'm in my early 30s, but like I can't fathom that sort of pressure at that age. And if you don't have the right support system, and I think he probably does, he wouldn't have ended up back here from Chelsea if he didn't. But there's still a lot going on for sure. And I think that that's fundamentally, and also we are relegated. Like that's the other thing. What are they? What are the players? The players at this point are playing for pride. Like I'll retract some of my statements on Jack Stevens.
We were 3 minutes away from not being the joint worst team in Premier League history.
Yeah, and it was nice. And as I said, like Jack Stevens showed captaincy that game. He's been very well since he's been back in the side. I stand by my statement in the sense of if he'd never played for us, I would have been all right with it. But he's strengthened up the side, and he seems to have brought some passion into the ground, and you can see he wants it. Whether or not we believe they're all good enough, which I think we know the answer to that question, but it was nice to see. And again, we talked about it. Me and you talked about it. It was just back to basics, isn't it?
You know? Well, let's move on to that, and let's break the game down into its 2 distinct parts, which is before the Fulham goal and after the Fulham goal. But first, a message from our partners at Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Okay, and we are back. So let's talk about it, Zach. You're right. Back to basics. We pass the ball about, play players in their right positions. We get a set piece, and instead of going back to passing it backwards and sideways, we stick it in the mixer. You have a centre-back run from the penalty spot to the near post and have a glancing header that knocks it in at the far post. Like, does it get more football textbook, like football 101 than that?
Not really, unless you're bringing it back to the days of 4-4-2, mate.
Right, it's literally like right up there with 4-4-2 in like the lineage of football heritage. Like centre back, penalty spot to near post run, head into the far post. Is it the first piece we scored from this season?
I want to say second. I think we didn't have one for absolutely ages, and then I can't remember who we broke it against.
Was it against Man United when they bundled it into their own net?
I want to say it was Man United, where it was technically an own goal. So I think that might be the first actual goal we scored for a Southampton player.
Yeah.
But also it shows you,
I don't know. Was Tall Paul's deliberate header from a corner as well the other week?
Essentially, but it's all blending. It's all blending into just one giant. Because the problem is it's very hard to remember all of the good moments from terrible games we want to forget, and a lot of them have fallen into moments of terrible games we want to forget. This might be one of them. I don't really know. As you said, I was more entertained watching this than I was the first Fulham game.
I was enjoying the game. I felt like we were on top, and now I've looked at the statistics, and I feel like I don't know.
We just offended well.
I think in the moment, like
their manager got really annoyed and saying like, "Oh, we came to play football, and they didn't want to play football," which was a very almost Jose Mourinho-esque evaluation of the game today, which is very funny.
I did see that. It was something like we were the only team that tried to score. I'm like, mate, have you seen us the rest of the season? That is us trying.
Three shots on target. 3 shots on target for us is better than a lot of games this season. 7 shots away. Like again, like most of the time we get to their half, we just play around with the ball for a little before we do anything with it. That doesn't mean that the ball isn't. Yeah, I imagine it's probably frustration and then annoyance because it took so long to break us down. But when it happened, and then obviously as soon as you said, you were like, no, 6 minutes, and then the 6 minutes came up. Obviously,
as soon as it went up, you just felt it in the air. I think the entire stadium felt it. You know, like we were already deflated from the equaliser, but unlike other times where that's happened, we sort of stuck in and looked like we weren't going to completely capitulate. But it just felt like the second that board went up, bang, it was in the back of the net. All right. That makes sense. Checks out.
But again, it's you hit the nail on the head, and it's the point we both keep making and have made all season. Is you look at who they've been able to bring on, you look at who we brought on. So our 3 substitutions were Dibbling, Bree, and Cameron Archer, and they had Carlos Vinicius, Emil Smith-Rowe, Adam Traore, Tom Carney. I said to you about both Smith-Rowe and obviously Traore, and they can make a difference in games, and that's the problem, is that we don't really have, it's almost like we miss a Ryan Fraser from like Championship era being able to come on and get those kind of goals for us. Obviously, no idea what's going on with him because he's not in the game either.
Yeah, you could argue that you would bring him on and he would do the same in the Premier League as the other players we've brought on. But you're right, that sort of impact off the bench is exactly what we're missing, because it, the way that we're playing with even back to the basics football is tiring. It takes its toll on the players. And also we've mentioned that our team is not the fittest.
We just can't manage the 90 minutes. And I think you briefly covered it before, where you were saying like Russell Martin's football didn't really require it as much, but like we're gonna need it. I think we need to go back to that level, and like gone are the days where we think of like sort of the Pochettino era where fitness was the most important thing, and you got to worry, you got to think who can hack it, because this is why I feel like we're getting so many injuries, and why players just can't see out 90 minutes, and we don't have the depth.
It just frustrates me, mate, because knowing how much money those football players get paid, to not be fit enough to run around a pitch for 90 minutes is a joke.
But it
feels like that's like the minimum basic requirement.
But then also we shored up our team to try and deal with this, right? That's why we brought in so many new faces. The problem is none of those new faces are sticking around. You've got Adam Armstrong still out at West Brom, Ben Beretta-Diaz, like the entire front line of players that realistically would be able to make those decisions. I don't know what's happened with Fraser. Like, I know that we kind of briefly, he was briefly mentioned under Juric, right? Where Juric was like, I like him, there's just other players that are better. And then since then, nothing. We said the same about Ross Stewart for a really long time, but clearly because they like that target man approach with Paul Onuachu, that's why Ross Stewart is basically taking that place with wherever Paul has gone, which is pushing Cameron Archer behind, which means that, it's going to be an interesting summer. I think we've gone over that point multiple times, but yeah, this game is just again like such a snapshot of the season, and we've said that about so many games.
We could literally copy and paste about 15 of our Sunday evening recordings of games on a Saturday afternoon at home.
100%.
Just we had we were good in spells and we looked promising, and then we conceded and we didn't fully capitulate this time, but then we got to stoppage time and wow, their quality off the bat is just tiring, mate. It's just same old nonsense. It's such a horrible way to lose a game. Like, even at 1-1, like, a point was... We talked before about like these draws that feel like wins and draws that feel like losses. And 1-1 actually...
It felt like losing, didn't it?
Nah, well, in normal
I thought it did.
circumstances, it would have been a draw that felt like a loss. But because it still would have been the point that took us over that 11-point mark, it would have been like not as bitter, right? It would have been a draw that felt like a loss, but something was taken from it.
It would have been we built on something, right? This is a lot
Yeah.
of the problem is we can't string two performances together. And again, we showed we can't string. You know, there's that guy who's like, oh, I'm not cutting my hair until Man United win 5 games in a row. If I agreed to that, I'd have like Rapunzel hair by the end of the next couple of years. I don't remember. Obviously, we had those games. We had that massive run in the Championship. I don't remember us winning 5 times in a row. We had a couple of draws in between.
They were basically all draws. While we finished fourth, mate.
But yeah, like, and that's the thing is that it's just sort of. It was probably one of our best opportunities. Like, our next opportunity will come against Leicester, but like, I could see Jamie Vardy, now that he's leaving, going on to score against us because he loves to do that. That would be a wonderful send off for him in the El Crapio derby. So yeah, it's just frustrating. And it's, you know, but the other thing is, the other way to look at it is it's still pre-season. And if we go down as the joint worst of all time, it's not the worst of all time. Now we should talk about what's coming next, mate. What's next? Who we got next?
Let's think about that. But first, a message from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr. Alright, yeah, let's look. I mean, can we build upon this performance? Can you believe, Zach, that at half time I turned round to one of the people I sit around within our little community that we've built in the corner, and we're all good friends now, and said, why did it take us to get relegated to play football this well? And now I'm looking at the statistics of the game and the first half in particular. I'm thinking, how bad have we been this season for me to feel like that was such a step up?
Yeah, but it's because we were defensively solid. And we weren't making the stupid mistakes. Like you are watching,
still making stupid mistakes.
Yeah, right? But not to the level that they put away. That was bad. That was bad. But also, he gets a pass for the amount of times he's got us out of jail.
He also, after that, kicked it into touch about 3 times in a row.
Okay, then. I don't know what to tell you. The reason
sign him for his distribution, but
the reason I think that you feel like that is that there is a weird sense of pressure that's been lifted, and also the reason that you think that is that we're not reliant on these weird philosophies of sort of strange footballing heritage for people like Martin and Juric, who have this idea of how we just played a level of football, and it was a level of football that you recognised and you watched the game happen. That wasn't, sounds very much like waffle, but like, I just think that we've been so bad because we tried to play in a way that's really, really not at our level under Martin, and then we switched into Juric, who we thought was going to do something different, and he didn't.
Right. Like,
and now we're playing to our level, which unfortunately...
We played a game of football, and so it felt like good football.
Yeah.
We played, centre-backs at centre-back and midfielders in midfield, and gave them a go. And we had a striker up front who looked like he knew what he was doing at least some of the time. Got in behind a couple of times. Cole Walker, this sort of 3 at the back formation that we go with, frees up Kyle Walker-Peters to go and be creative in just about any way he wants. And, he had a shot on target that he probably could have done better with again.
But again, like shooting practice is a you sit near them when they do shooting practice, mate. You know that sometimes they get some really good ones.
Practice goal, which is both wonderful and sometimes distressing. So I can tell you from the shooting warm up that Ross Stewart didn't hit the target once. That Matty Fernandez absolutely buried some really impressive efforts, and Leslie Ugachukwu shouldn't be allowed to use his left foot ever.
but there you go, and that's the thing is you've been able to, what you saw was a bit more of a competitive game of football, and it wasn't us completely dying, which is we've been drowning under pressure, and we were under pressure a lot of that game. But it also didn't feel like Fulham were in as much control. They had a lot of shots, a lot of them didn't really go anywhere or do anything. Again, even the first goal was a deflection, right? I can't remember if it was the first or the second. The one which literally came off of Yanni B, and I reckon if it had gone at Ramsdale, probably would have saved it if he'd been out of the way. And again, like that's again positioning and communication and silly things like that. But also
at that point though, right? They'd hit the post, I think, and won somehow.
Exactly.
So it's not like it was against the run of play. It was unfortunate, but it had been coming, and it just I guess it's.
And also, you're going to remember the good moments. That's the other thing, mate. Is that you have to remember the good moments. But the thing is that it didn't. You did not feel like they were out to batter us like 10-0.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the other games that you've been in this season, you are like, how many is it going to be?
Yeah, especially as in the context of the season, like Fulham are 8th, they're potentially pushing for a European spot. So
yeah, that's why they're so happy.
Yeah,
and that's the bad thing about it is, like I said, they're probably one of the ones that are closer to us, and that was mainly based on the last game. And again, like the fact they've been able to bring on, it was two ex-Arsenal graduates. Iwobi managed to make the first goal, and then Smith Rowe managed to bury the other one, right? Or I think it was other way around. You just it's the gulf of quality, but also the gulf of expectation, and the fact that you kind of knew what you were getting with Rusk and Lallana being at the helm in comparison to Juric and Martin, in the sense that they are just trying to win the games the best they can, best of their ability. And we found a formation that works. The players, as long as they're fit, are being played in the correct positions. Paul was swapped out for Ross Stewart, who plays in a similar way for him. So you almost feel a bit more of a confidence in that it doesn't feel like Russian roulette every single time we go into a game, which means that, you are going to watch and we're still behind the team and we know what's coming next season. There is no expectation that we're meant to do a lot other than get past that sort of points. And, it's embarrassing we're even in that position. And I know the players have all said that. So, I think that maybe, mate, you just watched a game of competitive football. That's why you enjoyed it. And Fulham were frustrated because it took them so long to get two past us, really.
Maybe rightly so. I mean, like I say, it wasn't like Admin coming. Okay, well, look, it's just another week, mate. Another week, another loss.
We move on to Leicester now.
At least next season we might, win a game at home or something. Or now the entire season's finished and Liverpool have actually mathematically won the league. Yes. Maybe we'll beat both Arsenal and Man City because it's funny.
Yeah, well, it depends. City surely still got to fight for a European place, right? There's some gamblers at there.
Well, unless they win the FA Cup, mate, they're in the final now. So
it's just weird. Yeah, I feel bad for Forest. I really hope they somehow win the next few games, and that would be a very Southampton thing to do. Is just randomly beat City for no apparent reason.
Absolutely.
But again, I also think that that's going to come at Everton, and then we've also still got Arsenal to play as well, which you've pointed out. It's just a bit weird. It's very much pre-season, but for me, it's like I almost want to get onto the summer and see what we do, because we're going to have, we're still going to try and put out this week another sort of manager profile for potential managers we've got. We're going to end up probably, knowing our luck, hire not a single one we cover.
I've seen us linked with some wild names, but we will cover that as the week goes on. That is just about all that we have got time for today. Zach, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Do you think it was better? Let us know on the socials. Just copy and paste the same loss every week for all of eternity. At least next year it'll be better, right? Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.